Welcome to Rogue Bogues. This is the basketball series. NBA finals have all wrapped up. Got a lot to get through today. Pro, what is going on?
I'm going to have to fucking hear how you're a fucking genius. Golden State in 6, Bogut. Let's go, Bogues. Come on, give it to me the whole thing.
Hey, you were right. You had 4-1. You had 4-1. You were close.
Yeah, but you enjoy being right so much more than I do.
Oh, I sure
do.
So
I just want to get out of. Yeah, I just want to.
I admit when I'm wrong too. I admit when I'm wrong. Like I definitely.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
You definitely had the Warriors out in the first round.
Yes, I did in the play-in. But yes.
Yeah,
my receipt's coming. My receipt's coming.
Oh, from Draymond. Yeah. But no, we just had Jae'Sean Tate on, so that's going to be in a separate episode after this. So make sure you catch that one, especially parents and kids that are struggling, going through some tough things or things aren't going their way. I think it's a really, really good story to listen to. I really enjoyed chatting with Jae'Sean, former teammate of mine at Sydney Kings, and just what he went through to get there. I think he's got that the Mighty Ducks type story, Pro.
Yeah, he does. It's a little sad, but it's just like anything else, Bogues. The guy got punched in the face and he he didn't feel sorry for himself. He got himself up and he had to work through it, but he got onto some great things, man. He's a good kid. First time I've ever spoken to him. He is a good story.
Give that a listen. That'll be right under this podcast episode. Let's get rolling. Congratulations to the Golden State Warriors. 4 championships in 8 years. Amazing run. To me, looking at this championship for them and the first one are probably the most special. I think that's pretty easy to figure out. I've got this championship above the ones with KD, and that's no disrespect to KD, but the super team that they had for those 2 championships, it was expected, right? This one definitely wasn't expected, and the first one that I'll happen to be a part of wasn't expected. So congratulations to them. We'll break down game 5 and 6 and then have a chat about the series and what we think is going to happen with both teams in the off-season. A lot that I think is going to happen with these 2 teams potentially as well, so with their salary cap is and whatnot. But game 5, Pro, for me, Boston, 1 elite quarter, which was the third, and 3 horrid quarters of basketball. So Boston had 39 total points in the first half. They had 35 in the third quarter, Pro. So they played a hell of a third quarter, albeit shots were falling for them, but they grinded the game back, looked like they were in it, but I just felt like they never really had control of the game. Even though they got it close in the third, they might have even tied the game. I think they spent so much energy getting back into that game that they lost the lead just as quick as they got back into it. But I never felt like Golden State was threatened. The thing that probably scared me most for game 5 was I don't think the Warriors played that well. I really don't. Steph infamously didn't make a 3 for the first time in donkey's years. In a playoff game, he was 0 for 9. He finished with 16 points. But I just don't feel like they even got out of third gear, the Golden State Warriors, and they still kind of pretty easily won that. So the reason why I bring that up is I then was like, I think they've got game 6, just the way this has played out. I think Boston are cooked. The Golden State Warriors, Andrew Wiggins in this game was just beyond huge. 26 points, 13 rebounds. I think what you got from him was a bonus offensively because I think defensively he was a menace this series. He caused all kinds of problems for Tatum, and there's no surprise as to why Tatum struggled in this series. Draymond found himself not eye-boggling numbers, but a Draymond line, 8, 7, and 6. Some key defensive possessions. Clay had some shots for his 21. As I said, Steph struggled offensively, which is the other thing. Like Steph struggled so much for them offensively this game. And they have 12-point lead at halftime, and they cruise to victory. I'm like, well, this is danger time for Boston. Payton was huge off the bench, 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. So the Warriors cruised to victory in game 5, not overly threatened in my opinion for Boston. Tatum put up the best numbers. I don't think he played that well, but if you looked at a stat sheet, he had 27 and 10, but I just don't think it was that good of a game from him considering what his numbers were, if that makes sense. I think they were hollow numbers. Marcus Smart had 20 and Jaylen Brown had 18 with a horrid shooting night. As I said, I thought coming from this game, Boston were in trouble in game 6. How did you see this game? Did you notice anything, or do you agree or disagree with my points?
Yeah, Bogues, I thought I sort of flipped it. I thought that, the way Boston was playing up to that point, up to this, at the end of this game, I thought that like anything Golden State would hit them with, they you know what, they took the hit and they were able to just score at will. Tatum, Brown, Smart made a shot, Robert Williams, what have you. Like I thought that they just handled it, and then the second half, they just sort of started to crumble apart a little bit, the fourth quarter especially. But I thought after this game it was going to be, I thought the Celtics would, protect home court and then Golden State would take it. I've never seen a series like, well, I have probably, but like it's funny. Like after game 2 or 3, everyone's saying Golden State doesn't have a chance. Boston's too big. It's over. And I'm terrible at picking, obviously, but like it was interesting how they just sort of flipped the script on Boston without an injury. Remember in 2010, I always talk about when the Celtics had LA done and Perkins got hurt and it cost them the last 2. But in this game, in this series, nobody really got hurt for Boston, and they had that size advantage and they were playing so well. And yeah, just Golden State just never quit. And Wiggins was unbelievable in game 5. I'm happy for him because, everybody, including me, were like taking shots at him throughout his career. Was he really an all-star this year? Blah, blah, blah. But he really came to play this series. It was fun to watch.
It goes to also say, how is he not in, defensive player of the year conversations? Because he's not that flashy. He's not a Marcus Smart up and in you, flopping, diving. He's elite at what he does. He stays in front of the ball. You get by him. He's long. I mean, yeah, he really made a name for himself defensively. And I didn't think he was this good defensively pre this playoffs. I thought he was a above average defender. I didn't think he's in the elite category for me now. And I think he really has just shown, situation in the NBA. Like he was just in a shitty, unprofessional situation with a bunch of young knuckleheads to an extent in his time in Minnesota. And now he's in a system that doesn't need to be that number one guy. And I think that's more suited towards his game. But, he's flourished in this system. They've given him confidence, like shoot the 3 ball, get to the rack, do your thing. We're rolling with you. And genius move by the Golden State Warriors front office to move D'Angelo Russell for that. I mean, a lot of people were like, it's your old saying of moving the deck chairs of the Titanic, potentially that conversation. Like, has it made a difference? Not really. D'Angelo's more talented. Wiggins probably a bit more steady on the offensive end, more consistent, whereas D'Angelo can get you a 50-point night or a 40-point night. But I think it goes down to the Warriors' mentality of Kelly Oubre, D'Angelo, questionable characters at times, personalities with that group. We're going to get you out of here. You're only going to have a year here and you're gone. And they make those tough decisions and genius trade. So going on from that, we go to game 6. Boston come out and get off to a quick start, 14-2. And then the game was over. It went 52-25 run to finish the half. So Boston are up 14-2 in the first quarter, and then end up not leading at quarter time. And then, as I said, a 52-25 run to finish the half for the Warriors. Just an amazing turnaround. It looked ugly for the Warriors, but they were kind of feeling the game out early. Boston came out pumped up in the home crowd. That was it. That was all we saw from Boston as far as a punch. It was pretty much over from that point. You felt like Boston would never, as you said, they compete and they try to keep it close, but I felt like they were never in this game post quarter, maybe quarter time, half time. It just felt like the Warriors, every time Boston made that run, I think they got it to about 10 in the fourth where Al Horford hit a 3, but they never felt threatened from quarter time, in my opinion, where they were like, hey, Steph's got to give us one of these performances, or, Steph made big shots for him, but he didn't have to come down and go bang, bang, bang to keep him either in the lead or keep him with a nice little lead. It just kind of naturally flowed. Everyone made big plays. Boston, Tatum, 13 points, 7 assists, 5 turnovers, 6 for 18. He was I have to say it, bro, he was horrible this game. He forced a lot of shots. I don't know if you noticed this, trying to draw fouls that weren't there. You're not going to get those calls in a finals, probably not even in the playoffs, early rounds, where you just drive, put your head down, jump into someone and just throw it at the hoop, hoping to get through free throws. He did that 4 or 5 times before he realized this probably isn't working tonight. I thought he was really bad. Jaylen Brown and Al Horford kept Boston in it. Without them, they would have lost by 50. I mean, Jaylen Brown had 34. He came to play. Al Horford hit some big threes for them just to keep them within, that 10 to 15 range. He had 19. That was it. Williams was big on the defensive end again with 5 blocks. Boston's bench, horrific. 5 points total for the night combined off their bench pro. So I think they just burnt out over the course of this series. I really do. I think their starters, both starters on both teams played high minutes. Boston a little bit more. But Boston really had nothing off the bench outside of probably post game 2, game 3. White was big for him early, and then he disappeared. For the Warriors, Draymond with a Draymond-esque night, 12, and 8, with 2 threes made. His first 2 threes of the finals, he made them in game 6, 2 steals, 2 blocks. When he makes a 3, his game opens up. Everything opens up for him. Steph, 34, 7, and 7. Wiggins, 18, 6, 5, 4, and 3 blocks. 4 steals, 3 blocks. Amazing night. Clay was real quiet for him, 5 for 20, 12 points. But Golden State getting the lead in the first quarter after their start, like I said, was just amazing. I just don't think Boston had anything left in the tank. I think they were like, why, how is this team doing this to us? We're throwing everything at them defensively. We're wrestling, we're holding, we're grabbing, we're physical, and they just won't die. And I think this is the reason why I'll pat myself on the back, why I chose the Warriors, because they've been through these ups and downs. They've been in series where they've been down 2-1 and they've come back and won 4-2. They've been in a series where they've been up 3-1 and lost 4-3. So Boston still's not there yet as far as, getting punched in the face in a final series or experiencing the highs and the lows. Boston now, they can only go 2 ways, pro, as we know. They can go and not make the finals for a number of years again, or they can be like, hey, we really learned a lot. We're gonna write these points down. These are the do's and don'ts of a final series. Can't get too high, can't get too low, and we're gonna try to win it next season. So I'm interested to see how they bounce back. But that was my game 6, pro. What do you got?
Yeah, I see about the same thing. Look, I think Boston came to play, and it's hard. It's hard when your best player, comes with 13. And look, I think Tatum's had an unbelievable year. He's one of the top 7 or 8 players, maybe top 10 players in the league. And I think he's second or first team All NBA. I forgot what he even was, but he came with 13 and he had an off night and he's trying. I think he tried a little too hard, like you said, to draw fouls. He's a decent, he draws about 7 free throw attempts a game, throughout his season. And, he's top 10 in the league, I think, at it. But they just didn't have enough. And when they come at you, when Golden State comes at you like that, it's tough. Look, Curry was unbelievable at 34, but after that, like Wiggins at 18, a couple other guys did okay. Like Draymond was decent. Clay was, 5 for 20. It wasn't great, but you're right. The bench just wasn't good enough. And I think Boston, look, hats off to Golden State. Shit, they played. They just wrestled through with it the whole playoffs and, earned it. With Boston, look, they got the top 2 players signed. They're going to get them both long-term. They're good. Their bench needs to be upgraded for sure. But, Derek White didn't come to play. He came to play, just didn't perform. And Grant Williams just didn't give enough. They're just not good enough off the bench yet. And look, they're right there. They've got 2 stars. They've got, Robert Williams and Marcus Smart that are really good defensively and, really good. If Robert Williams could stay healthy, he's going to be a very good big man for years to come. Horford, can you get another year out of Al at 37 next year? And because what he did this year was unbelievable for them, going forward. And Golden State, look, like everybody had him counted out. And look, you got Wiggins, who was just a found gem. And, Draymond after just letting all that stuff get to him the first few games or whatever, just sort of quieted down, played, didn't worry about the refs as much, and just sort of just focused in on it and fucking got it done. And Steph was unbelievable. He's Michael Jordan-esque, and in his performance in the playoffs, it was great. It was great to watch.
Yeah, I agree with Draymond. I think, he showed up when he needed to after a poor start, and that's the beauty of a 7-game series. You can have 2 or 3 bad games and no one remembers them if your team wins, and that's a prime example. we've had a discussion over the last couple of weeks, but Steph moves into the top 10 for me. I guess we're going to have that discussion about who we boot out, but I think, all-time performance, he's got 4 of them now. Just amazing numbers. That game 4, I think, solidified it for me. When they looked like they were in some trouble, he single-handedly carried them home and then flipped the series on its head. Wiggins, to me, he's all NBA defense, period, from here on out. No ifs, ands, or buts. I think he's going to get a whole lot more respect in that conversation. Even for the Dallas series with Luka and what he's done, he's been fantastic. Poole is about to get paid. Payton, very important glue guy. Someone will have a run at him, I think. So with Golden State, I guess it's what do they do? Wiggins is up for extension, possibly. Jordan Poole, Looney will potentially get some offers from other teams, and Payton. Got to be hard to keep them all, right, bro?
I mean, the goal is, look, if the ownership really wants to just pay out of the ass with luxury tax, try to keep them all, but it's going to be really tough. Going into next year, Looney, like you said, free agent. I think Poole's got one more left, and I think he'll be restricted in 2023, so he's good for now.
But they can extend, right? They can extend.
Yeah, they can extend. Yep. And then Looney, I would say, probably played himself into the $15 million a year range, how he played in the playoffs. I think Wiggins, like you said, I think he could get extended. Wiggins is, to just sort of talk about him for a second. Look, he was a guy that I thought was going to be like Joe Johnson coming out of Kansas, and he was an elite talent. I think he underachieved. Yeah, you could say it's Minnesota a little bit, but you could say it's a little bit on him. Wasn't focused on the defensive side, was very inconsistent shooting the ball, just wasn't good enough. And it's really tough as a young player to carry a team, truly carry a team. And I think going to this situation where he didn't have to be the best player and he can learn from, a couple of players that could carry a team every night. And then the whole culture thing that they have going on in Golden State, he really hit it. I don't think he hit it until this year, a little into last year. And then this year, he finally hit it. With the all defensive thing, maybe he just didn't show it enough during the season where he was elite during the postseason. I think the biggest thing for Wiggins now is, can you carry it into next year? Or is it going to be, you're going to rest on this and say, you know what, I've arrived? Or are you going to keep the work ethic? You're going to keep the focus. You're going to keep the preparation. He's definitely good enough to do it on both ends. I think he also learned, because everything was so fucking hard for him. He made it hard on the game sometimes, on his tough shots that he would take consistently, fade away this, fade away that, bad shot after bad shot. Now I think he's learned how to simplify his game and, how to put his head down and really go into a bag of tricks when he needs to. But for the most part, just play the game simple and how to shut people down defensively. So,
that goes back to your conversation, Pro, that you sent to me of yourself giving a rant to those players you were working out. You mentioned him and how simple he kept it in the finals and the playoffs. It was catch, rip through. It was catch, jab, rip. It was pump fake. It was just really simple, straight line stuff that you don't see with Instagram trainers, right? And I think having Steph and Clay around him and Draymond are going to hold him accountable to this. You've set the bar now. This is bare minimum Wiggins, so I think they'll hold him accountable. But I think he's had a great conversion into being simple and dominating simple, as the old great Mike Procopio has said. he really did. He dominated simple. He went away from like the fadeaways, the dream shake. He went away from that. He literally went to catch. Okay, double Steph. Kick to me, I'm wide open. Do I have a catch and shoot three? No, I don't. Pump fake, straight line drive, layup, dunk, kick, and then get good offensive rebound positioning. So I thought your point on that was fantastic.
Yeah, I think, Bogues, when these players figure out, look, if I can keep the dream shake shit to under 7 on the shot clock, and then in the flow of the game, just try to get great looks, I think that you could really be productive. You could really improve your offense, and you could help your team win. instead of taking these tough shots and living a steady diet of these tough shots. I like where Golden State is because they've got their big three with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. They could retain Wiggins. They got Kuminga, which you don't know what he's going to be. I think he's going to be pretty good. Pools, they could extend Poole if they want to, move him in a trade, down the line to try to get something back. I don't know what the plans are financially through ownership. Can they keep him? Can they not? You're probably looking at 20 plus million, Bogues, would you say, for Poole? Would you, in the open market, close to that?
Oh, more, probably even more.
Yeah,
probably
20, 25.
More. Yeah, so
he's in that Jalen Brunson sort of talk.
100%. And probably higher ceiling, to be honest, than Jalen Brunson. Yeah. So teams will look at that and there might be teams that look to just take him to get him away from Golden State. But I think they're going to have some issues trying to keep everyone. I think Peyton's earned himself some money. I think he can easily get that mid-level type money somewhere. 4, 5, 6, 7 million. And Looney's the big one. If you think he's getting 15s, I can't see him coming back. That's a big number. Their cap's going to be. We'll see. These owners talk about a lot that if you win a championship, we're happy to overpay. Well, let's see it now, because are you going to bring this same team back? Are you going to run it back or try to get clever like a la Mark Cuban did a decade ago, and it costs you then for you don't even touch the surface of a conference finals or a chip. So I think they'll bring back most of their players, but I think. Looney at 15, that's a tough one for them to keep on the books, because that's what's that luxury tax wise, 30, 40 million for him. So it ends up being like $4 for every dollar you spend, on that deal. So Bogues, you're talking at Steph at 48 million, you're talking at Clay at 40, you're talking at Wiggins 33, you're talking Draymond 25, Wiseman at 9, Kuminga at 5. So right there, you're at about 50, 90. You're at over $140 million just for those guys. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before you even think about extending Looney. Then you got, not that these are huge deals or anything, but then you got Damian Lee, you got Toscano Anderson. Those guys will be minimum deals. Peyton, like you said, you got to pay Peyton. So one of these guys got to go. Porter's probably going to be, I would say Porter's in between minimum vet min and mid-level exception. So he's probably going to be right around there. And so, they've got some important decisions to make, and ownership's got to say, look, do we really want to go deep into the tax with these guys? I don't know, Bogues. Looney's a huge part of what you did, but I think you got to put everybody on the depth chart. Who are we going to go into the tax for? You're probably going for Poole, although they don't have to extend him. They could, he doesn't really take a hit till 2023, 24. But do you do it for Looney? Can you get a minimum contract guy for 2.7 or whatever the minimum is going to be? Can you get that and replace Kuminga at least 85%? I'm not Kuminga. I'm sorry, Looney. If you can get 85% of Looney through a minimum contract, do you do it versus giving him $15 million a year? Maybe he's not 15, maybe he's 10, 12, but I think the way he played, man, I think, and especially because there's not a lot of great free agents out there this year, past Brunson and a couple others, I think that, some of these teams that are going to strike out in free agency, going to have this cap money, are going to be like, well, we need a championship type player. We can't get Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Wiseman, Kuminga. Let's get the next guy on the list that we can get out of the Golden State just to add to our culture or whatever. So I think he's going to probably see 12 to 15, in my opinion, but we'll see. Yeah, it will be interesting to see if Golden State can bring the band back together, but I think there'll be some small tweaks. I think those bench guys, probably a few of those guys, who knows if they come back. Interesting to see if Wiggins takes not a cheaper deal, but an extension at a lower number than what he's on now to stay. Does he say, I don't know. I don't see him as a guy with huge spending habits where an extra $5 million is going to make a huge difference for him, but I could be wrong. But that'll be the other thing to see what direction they go. But they're definitely in a good spot, and no one at a small level being involved with the Sydney Kings. When you win a championship, the vultures come out and they try to poach. So, and even so, some teams will strategically do it just to try to make you pay more. We've seen that before as well. We're like, we kind of like this player. We'd love to have him. Let's throw out this offer, knowing that they can't lose him. And then I think Paul's in that boat where he can't get an offer from another team this season, but they know if they let him go to free agency, it's probably going to be more than what they can get him for with an extension. So I'll be interested to see even Paul's mindset of, does he potentially want to go somewhere out of Steph and Clay shadow? That could be the other thing. I don't know his personality or what he's like. It seems like he fits in well, but he's young. He's going to have an agent in his ear. He's going to have family. Like, you can be the man at, if you go here or go there, or you could be the man there and the number one guy. You could be the Steph of that team. Maybe that gets to his head. He's got his chip now, house money. So that could also happen. So we'll see. All right, Boston, run it back, bro. We touched on that. They need some bench scoring. I think White's not the ultimate solution. He's not a pure bench scorer. He's probably does a little bit more than just score, but he's not a all-in, get your buckets off the bench. And we talk about the Tyler Hero, the Jordan Clarksons of the world. They've got to find someone along those lines, I think, for that bench punch. And I think that's where they probably get over the Golden State Warriors, or potentially make it a 7-game series if they just had a little bit more off that bench. They're pretty much bringing the band back together. Al Horford they can waive him, but still owe him 19 out of the 26 million. So it'd be they're bringing him back 100%. I think they're bringing him back just from the regardless of what he can bring. I think even at 18 minutes a night, he's invaluable for him, especially the way he's shooting the 3-ball now. You can just put him in that corner and really space the floor with an active 5-man defensive end. I thought he was very, very good defensively in the 1 through 5 switches, as good as you can be. He was stuck guarding Steph a lot, and I think he did it at a decent level. It is Steph. Let's not forget, so he's going to score on most people, but I thought he was moved pretty well considering his age and the 1 through 5 matchups. Do Boston keep the big lineup all next season? Do they make a tweak to that? Maybe they bring in a 4 that can probably shoot the ball a little bit better than a 4/5 that they can put next to Horford at times, put Horford to the 5, and maybe, someone that can just feet set 3 from the 4 spot. That could be because Williams was really consistent for him shooting the ball from 3. He had a couple of good games against Brooklyn, but didn't really have. Against even Miami, he had that one game where he closed it out for him, but he wasn't really consistent from 3 for him. But what do you see with Boston?
Well, Bogues, they're going to have some salary issues as well. Horford's deal was a little bit funny. The one he signed, he was initially he was only guaranteed 14.5. If he made the finals, it goes up to 19.5. If he won the finals, he would have been fully guaranteed. It was a stipulation in his contract. I just thought that was a pretty funny thing. But the thing with Horford is, I would waive him if he was non-guaranteed or 2.5 guaranteed or 3. But he's guaranteed 19. You don't really save a lot on the deal.
Pointless.
Right now, you get Tatum at 30. You get him at basically 20. You get Jaylen Brown at 27. You get Derek White at 16. You got Marcus Smart at 17. Dice is 8.7, and Robert Williams is 10. So now you're looking at 60, 90. You're looking at close to 130 million through all those guys. So it's going to be hard to get. You'll probably get taxpayers mid-level. I think it's like 5.5 or 6. So it's not the full mid-level. So it's going to be harder for them to add talent than it is, a regular team that has cap room. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge for him. Grant Williams had a great year for him as far as what you expect from him. He shot the ball very well, 41 from 3, just didn't get it done in the playoffs. Like you said, they definitely need bench help. They just don't have enough. They don't have enough to beat an elite team. Well, they did beat some teams in the playoffs, let's be honest, like Miami, Milwaukee. Those are 2 really good teams. But they were hurting too. One didn't have Middleton. I'm not trying to cause a story or stink here, but one didn't have Middleton. Hero didn't play in the majority of that series. In the Miami series, but they did beat and grind out a lot, and they played great in the second half. I think it's going to be hard for them. I do they don't really have a lot of tradable assets. You're not going to trade Brown and Tatum. You're going to keep those guys together. Horford, you're not going to get much if you traded Horford. I think Robert Williams is your center for the future. And then players off the bench, Pritchard, White, Naismith, Williams, Theis, those guys are not getting you pieces in trades, in my opinion. They could get you picks, they could get you this or that, but they're not going to get you anything that can really get you over the hump. So they're going to have to use that veteran mid-level. They're going to have to try to find a diamond in the rough, in my opinion. Try to draft somebody. I don't think they have a first-round pick in this year's draft, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. But they've got one of the best coaches in basketball in Udoka. They've got Jaylen Brown and Tatum together. They've got really good grinded out players like Smart, Horford, and Williams, Robert Williams. So they do have a decent nucleus. It's how to expand it. How do you get that second unit to really help you out and try to upgrade that? And that's going to be challenging, but that's why those guys get $7, $8, $9 million a year, to fucking figure that shit out.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, one guy I've got, he's contracted next season, but Terrence Ross would be good for them, I think, off the bench.
Yeah.
He is contracted. He's on a sucky Orlando team, buyout material maybe. Come on a team-friendly deal halfway through the season. I mean, that's a guy I would circle if I was Boston. That'd be a great bench punch for him. A guy that hasn't won really. He's getting older in years. Someone like that I think would be good for him. Just someone that can give him some life off the bench. Someone that, Tatum's not shooting it well, Brown's struggling, throw him in there and he can get you a quick 20. I think they need someone like that. So just a random name I was looking at, but he is contracted next season for 11.5. But as we know, this Orlando's in a full rebuild right now. They'll want to get, Suggs more minutes and a few of the other guys. Who's a young guy, Wagner as well. So similar positions to Ross. So I don't think he plays a whole lot more there. And it could be a situation where he's either bought out leading up to the season or potentially they'll bring him in and buy him out halfway through the season. He can latch onto a Boston. So that's just a random name I've got there. But Boston and Golden State will have some issues tweaking their roster too much other than what they've already got, just from the way it all pans out salary cap wise. And we'll see if the Warriors are willing to spend $100-200 million to try and bring this band back together in taxes. So it's a big check. It's
got to be one hell of a band, Bogues.
One hell of a band. That's right. But once again, congratulations to Golden State Warriors. Not many people had them picked. It's been good to see. I think it was a great final series, even though it only went 6. Very swingy series, as you said. It was, Boston's got it. This is all over after the first couple of games. And for a guy that's been there, I was like, not as easy as that. It's still going to have to be a fight, and it ends up going Golden State's way. So congratulations to them. All right, moving on to some news. Just before we're about to hit, Kenny Atkinson backflips out of the Charlotte deal, bro. So we had a pretty in-depth discussion about this last week, so circle back to that. We had some reservations about it. Mainly, he's an old-school type, call it as he sees it, likes conflict and confrontation if needs be, with a young group in Charlotte. Doesn't really fit too well, we thought, but he's pulled out and said, I'm going back to the Golden State Warriors. There's a thought process of, Mike Brown's gone. Does he get a nice pay bump? Or did he just come to his senses and think, holy shit, I'm going into a kind of a little bit of a interesting roster with these young guys, bro. How do you see it?
I don't want to like quote what he did or what he's thinking, because I don't know. But what I'm seeing is, look, won a championship. Maybe after game 2, when you didn't think you're going to win a championship, maybe you're like, oh, fuck, now we're going to have to go through this another year. This is Charlotte offered me this job. I have something done. Let's just go. Let me do the Charlotte deal. I mean, these only 30 of these jobs. It's not like these jobs that come in every day. And let me just take this. They got a young player I'm probably going to have to butt heads with. It's going to be a pain in the ass every day. Let me do that. Well, I'll do it, though, because it's a job. It's an NBA head coaching job. Then you win a championship. And now ownership probably they probably were feeling a little bit of pressure. I don't care what they say now. They probably after game 2 when everyone's saying, oh, Boston's too good. They're too big. They're too young, blah, blah, blah. They're probably saying, oh, fuck, blah, blah, I don't know what we're going to do. Then they win it. And then Mike Brown leaves. Mike Brown was going to leave anyway to sack and probably said, hey, Kenny, you want to stay for $1.5 million or $2 million, be our head assistant? Because I think Mike Brown was the head assistant, if I'm not mistaken. And, Yeah, he probably said, well, let me see. Now we win it. We're revitalized, even though we have the same team, but everybody's going to look at us in a different light because we won it. We're going to probably be the favorites coming back. Now I don't have to butt heads with, do I really want to butt heads with fucking Ball every day? That it's going to be a pain in the ass. I'm a hard ass myself. It's going to be a struggle. I don't want to fucking, this guy turns it over 3 times in the first quarter. I take him out and he's going to be looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. Do I really want to deal with that shit every fucking day for, 4 years of my contract? I'm probably going to get fired after 2.5. Do I really want to deal with that? Or do I reshuffle the deck, roll the dice again on this team because we're probably going to win it again next year if we're healthy and all that stuff, and then I can get a better job? Fuck yeah, I'm going on that train. Like, yeah, let me do that, because I don't want to deal with this. And I think I think, in my opinion, if I had to guess, that was the thought process. He didn't want to butt heads with Ball because Ball is extremely hard to coach. Not extremely hard, but like it's if you watch them last year, it was a struggle for their coach. Every time he took him out, you saw the TikToks or whatever the fuck they put him on of Ball just putting his head in the air, rolling his eyes, not even looking at him, going back at him. I've been there. I understand that with a young player who thinks he's like that, and it's hard. And
players though, bro, it's not just Ball.
Yeah,
they got a squad that's into those antics and it's still wrestling for limelight, right? So I don't think it's just Ball. I think he's definitely the elephant in the room, but I think they've got a lot of, Oubre Jr. and Bridges and Harrell is notorious for it now. Never happy with his role the last couple of seasons. So I just wonder if he has, all right, he comes back for those reasons, but also knows that there's potentially another job opening up next season, after next season, or on the nose. Like someone could have said to him, hey, we're probably going to have an opening at the end of this coach's contract, or we've given him another chance, but we don't think it's going to work out. That could also happen as well. But yeah, I think he just came to his senses about, sometimes we've discussed this, taking a head coaching job just to take it because you haven't had an opportunity for a while can, as stupid as this sounds, hurt you more than it helps you, because you're going into a shit show of a situation that then tarnishes your record as a coach and your prowess as a coach, and then you got to grind for another 15 years to get another job. So I think it's probably a smart move if he had reservations, but just interesting that it happened so quickly. And I definitely know some people that were in the running, who I won't mention, to be on his assistant staff as well, which changes what they're doing now. So anyway, the Lakers have brought on NBL player Chris Chen as a head assistant pro. So Chris Chen, the reason why I bring this up, he was a former NBL star for a season over here in the NBL. Really, really fun player to watch. He played for my favourite team at the time, the North Melbourne Giants. So the Lakers have brought him on. He's had a pretty good rap as a head assistant around the league. People are saying he's kind of should be next in line for a head coaching job down the line. So good hiring.
Yeah, Chris Chen, I mean, look, he was around LeBron early on in his career. He's been an assistant coach a long time. He's been around the league. He's been in college. He's very well respected. He's a tough guy. I saw him play a lot at Ohio State. He played with Jimmy Jackson. They had a very good team in the early 90s at Ohio State. And the clip you sent me, he sort of looked like he's crazy playing over there. Like he looked like, if you ever see Mark Wahlberg's movie, The Fighter, when he was that fighter with that like crazy drugged out brother, like that nutty brother, he looked like the nutty brother playing over there, like antics, like Jason Williams a little bit, white chocolate. But he's a good guy, very knowledgeable, been around the league a long time. Probably maybe things were getting a little stale in Atlanta. Plus he gets to be the head assistant. Sure, why not? I think Darvin Ham's a good guy to work for. I respect him a ton. Good hire, for sure. I think it's a good hire.
Yeah, I like it. A bit of smart hiring from the Lakers, so you like to see that. All right, there was a trade over the last week, which is interesting. Christian Wood to Dallas for pick 26, Boban Marjanovic, Trey Burke, Sterling Brown, and Marquise Chris. So essentially the 26th pick, the other four guys, no disrespect to them, but but non-guarantees and journeymen and guys that probably aren't going to play a lot or at least be in your 8-9 rotation. So it's essentially per 26. Now, Christian Wood, unbelievable talent. Great games for the Houston Rockets. Even, previous stops, dominated the G League even when you were involved down there. But I think this is question marks on his character or his personality because they've basically got rid of a guy that was huge for them last season. I think was had some really, really big games, big numbers, can shoot the three, block shots, can rebound, can bring the ball up, whatever you want him to do. But when I see this, I'm like, I think they're just like, you know what, not good for our culture, not good for our locker room. I could be wrong, but this is what this looks like to me, bro. I don't know about you.
Yeah, Bogues, it's an interesting trade for sure. You get this guy in his last year of his deal. I think he signed like a $40 million deal or something. It's like 11 or something like that. So you get this guy, you put up points, questionable character, questionable work ethic. Doesn't show up a lot. One of those guys that probably people are saying that he put up points on a bad team. He really wasn't, he's not a guy that you would build around. I think these picks are important. I think as you're looking at this going forward, you got to evaluate, is this guy someone that we could build around and someone that's going to be a good player going forward for us? And he's going to be our type of guy. And then you're looking at Dallas, who needs talent. Don't have a lot of money to spend. They have to re-sign Jalen Brunson. So they say, look, we can't really acquire all this talent. It's going to be really tough for us. I don't think the sign and trade market, you don't know what you're going to do with Brunson yet. So the sign and trade talks aren't really in there yet. Obviously, you're a few weeks away from that. So if you're not going to re-sign Brunson. So basically, you're going to say, is the pick worth it? Because you trade Boban, great guy, everybody loves. You trade Marquise Chris, you trade Trey Burks. So you don't trade a lot of talent going out the door as far as production points per game wise or what stat wise for you. So you didn't really give up a lot, but you did give up the 26th pick. And look, the 26th pick, it's going to be tough to get an NBA All-Star at 26, but you could get something out of 26. So I think for Dallas, they're going to get like a JaVale McGee type talent. He could probably shoot better than JaVale, of course, but he's like that. He's rough around the edges as far as like motivating him to be consistent every night. He's a talent. They need a role threat, a bigger role threat, a more offensively minded player at the 5. They get that, but can they turn it around? Look, Marquise Chris was a disaster in his career until he got to Dallas. They actually turned him into a pretty good, productive player. They've got great role players and they've got great leadership. They got a great coach. They could all sort of maybe turn them into something productive. And then you get a cheap player that maybe you could get $20 million in value for in production, and you only had to spend $11 million in a draft pick for. It's a low risk for Dallas. Why not? Throw it out there. And, Luke is one of those types of players they're not going to ISO him on the block. They're not going to give it to him early in a possession. They're going to roll him to the rim. They're going to, Luka's going to force a double team and dish to him for duck-ins and dunker roll, dunker spot stuff and open shots. So he doesn't have to be a guy that carries them. All he has to do is probably put up 15 and 10 and, a block and a half. And that's what he needs to do. Not a huge fan of the guy. I don't think he works. I don't think he's a culture guy, but in the right environment, we saw it with Wiggins in Golden State. Maybe a light flicks, a switch flips, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I would bet against it, but hey, look, low risk. He's last year of his deal. You can get rid of him, or you could sign him long term after the year if he does anything. So, what do you think about it, Bogues?
Oh, he's bouncing around for a reason. But look, to give up pick 26 essentially to a guy that is average 18 and 10 last season, pro, with 39% from 3. I don't see any other reason why he'd be gone. And he's been, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ninth team. It's questionable as to what's going on. There's obviously some issues, and I think it's more the mental makeup. I think his talent you can't question his talent and his ability. I think he'll be huge. He can be good for Dallas because I think not only can he roll, I think you can roll him Al Horford-esque and then roll him and get him out of the paint to the corner at the 3 and clean up that paint for Luka to go downhill and get that big out of there, which they can't do when Power's in the game, right? And it still gives you rebounding. So you're not losing. A lot of times when you have a three-point shooting big, generally not as physical, the three-point shooting bigs, and this guy's almost 40% from 3 and getting you 10 boards a night. So I think it's a good move for Dallas. There is a risk there, though, and I think at this point, he'd have to look at himself and say, I'm now on my 8th team in 10 years. I got to look at myself in the mirror, and I think Dallas being a conference finals team, potential to go to the finals next season or be in the mix, are not going to tolerate BS. So I think he's got to buy in, and he's going into a contract year. So I think there's a lot of leverage there with Dallas. There's a lot of buttons they can push if it's not going their way, and just be like, hey man, you're going into a contract year the year after. Do you want us to waive you halfway through the year and let the league know that you're a shithead? Because it's going to hurt your value, even though you put up 18 and 10 last season. So I think that it's a decent move for Dallas. There is some risk there, but I don't think there's enough. There's no other real bad guys in that Dallas locker room that if things did go sideways, that he can go and pout to. As we know in NBA locker rooms, if there's 1 or 2 bad guys and they form a coalition with another 2 or 3 bad guys, you've got issues because you've got 4 or 5 guys that are, the wrong mindset, wrong attitude, right? Whereas there's no one else to go in that locker room. I think they got a pretty good bunch of guys. So, and excuse me, I think it's 6 teams in 8 years. So going to his 7th. But we'll see how it pans out. I like it looking at X's and O's if he buys into just being able to provide a bit more kind of spacing for that Dallas Mavericks team. I think that's a good thing. So we will see how that goes. Montrezl Harrell, ready to smoke it up, bro. Ready to smoke it up. I don't like talking about this shit too much, but I thought I'd mention it. He was arrested with 3 pounds of weed in a traffic stop. There's the debate. This is the Brittany Griner debate around the weed should be legal anyway. What does it matter? The problem with the 3 pounds was, I guarantee it was all for him because he's, he likes to smoke. But the numbers now hit with an intent to distribute, which is heavy jail time. It comes down to know the law. The law sucks, yes. Weed. I believe weed should be legal. I believe you should be able to smoke just like you can drink. I think it's, I've never met a person that's high that's trying to, be violent or cause problems. That's a separate discussion that people can't differentiate from the current discussion. At the time of where he was found with weed, it's illegal. And on top of that, you've got enough to put you in jail for a long, long time, bro. So I think you got to put some onus on the adult in Montrezl Harrell to know the law and not be silly. But he could be facing some jail time, bro. I doubt he gets it.
Well, folks, in this country, you could have a bazooka on you these days and you won't get prosecuted. So it's not really, he won't get prosecuted most likely. I agree with you. It probably should be legal, but not when you're carrying as much as 9 Christmas trees in your fucking vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. I mean, there's a line.
And he's not, there's no intent to distribute. I mean, the guy's an NBA star. I doubt he's dealing drugs as his side gig in the off season. Yes, it should be legal, but I agree. It's just like, what are you doing, dude? Like, at least have a fall guy with you. Like, have your buddy hold it for you in the passenger seat.
Yeah. This isn't an episode of The Wire. He ain't fucking, he ain't in The Wire right now. There's no, I don't think he's distributing, but I don't know. I don't care. The thing about him too, same thing with the Christian Wood situation. The game of basketball is going to move on with or without him. And you gotta smarten the fuck up. Seriously. Like, he's been on a few teams. He's got some talent. He's put up some numbers in the league, but you don't want to start this road of things. Again, I don't know anything about this case. I read a little bit. I saw the headline of it. You and I discussed it briefly. I don't know much about it, but come on, man. Like, if you respect the law or you don't, whatever, but like, it's a law, fucking law's a law. And you got to know it, whatever. But
exactly, there's a bunch of laws you and I probably both think are absolutely stupid. But I also know that if I go and break that stupid law, I'm going to be in trouble. Like you travel to Bali and you're caught with drugs. Yeah. Like it can be death sentence. It can be life in prison. So you best know that state's laws, the city's laws, the country's laws of where you're traveling, whether the laws make sense or not, or whether, like I said, people are, weed should be legal. But yeah, I agree. But in that state, it wasn't at the time. So just really silly. And maybe, hey, conspiracy theory, Kenny A, he's like, I can't go there. It's just another little bow in his, another little arrow in his bow that said, Charlotte's not for me. So that could be the conspiracy theory, pro. He just doesn't like a too high Montrezl Harrell. All right, the Warriors have receipts, pro. Now, they're going at everyone, and I like it. Here's why. I think, yes, it is a little bit petty at times. Yes, all that stuff. When you're champions, you have the right to be petty, and I like them going back at people that have gone at them. And there were some disrespectful things that said to them throughout the season, to Steph, to his wife, to Draymond, to this, to that. And I've enjoyed the roller coaster of all the receipts that mainly Draymond Green has put out, but even Steph, some very quirky stuff along the way. But have you seen all these, pro?
I did. I saw.
What's your favorite?
I saw Steph give the 0. Oh, the 0 for sure. For me, the 0 for sure.
Perkins.
But I'll tell you what, though, Clay's funnier than shit too. Like he doesn't care.
He went at
how funny is that?
He went at Jaren Jackson, didn't he?
He did. Ooh. He did. No. Was it Jackson or was it like Bane or something?
No, I think it was Jackson.
It was
Jackson that tweeted strengthening numbers after they beat him in the regular season. And you could just see Clay's reliving it in real time. Like, hey, I remember this guy. That was great. That was awesome. The Draymond shirt. Stole one of their shirts from the arena and wrote 18 nope.
Yeah, 2023. Yeah, no, you know what? Like, I think Clay, I don't know him at all. But, like, he seems like he's one of the top 10 funniest motherfuckers in the whole league. He just seems like he's a funny
but dude. Not by design. Like, he's like that's the thing I love about him. Half the time he's got a great sense of humor, but half the time he's not trying to be funny. He's just, like, being himself. Like, he's not trying to put it on for the boys to make you laugh. He's just, like, being himself, and it just makes you laugh because it's so great. But I've enjoyed... How about
when he was riding around New York? That's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
They interviewed him?
When he was riding around New York. And he was, and they interviewed him about the scaffolding in New York. Did you remember that one?
Yeah, and the reporter didn't know it was Klay Thompson. Thought it was a regular dude walking down the street. So and he just gave the interview about the scaffold.
Yeah, he's funny as shit, man. He's funny.
Oh, he's great. He's great. So I enjoy the receipts. Hopefully, we keep more of those coming. Now, I saw this just as I was putting the run sheet together. Former teammate of mine, Jonas Jerebko, from Sweden, ex-NBA player, played for Detroit, played with Golden State Warriors the year we lost to Toronto. I enjoyed being around him, was a good teammate. Anyhow, I missed this a couple of months ago. He signed with CSKA Moscow. Anyway, he has quit the team now, less than 3 months after his controversial decision to join the organization amid international condemnation of Russia. Get this, the Swedish Basketball Federation back then cut Jerebko from the national squad at the end of March and has basically said, like, you're no longer involved with Swedish basketball against the federation's values and our very clear stance towards Russia over the invasion of Ukraine. I think this is horrendous by Sweden. I mean, this is one of I have to do my research, but I think he's the best player to ever come out of Sweden, NBA wise, Swedish born, always went back and loved playing for his national team, even in like the lowly qualifiers. So, Sweden's always in those qualifiers. It's first starts.
Hey, Bogues, stop. Sweden couldn't medal in the Swedish Olympics in basketball. Okay, so I don't know what the fuck they're thinking about. The guy tried to make money for him and his family. I know the guy. I work with him. He spent an off season with us at Grover. They couldn't medal in the Swedish Olympics. So why are you busting this guy's fucking balls that he wanted to play for one of the best clubs in the fucking world in CSKA Moscow and make money and prolong his career? And now you're going to bust the fucking guy's balls. I mean, that's my opinion. They could do what the fuck they want, but come on, man.
I agree. But he's my point to where they play. You know, they start in like when it's like the top 200 Euro. There's not 200 European countries, but making it up, right? And they're going to work through that low end of the bracket to even make the top 60 and then the top 30, right? He'd play in those games. And now you're going to shit on him because he wants to go and play in Russia because of some political spat that's got nothing to do with the athlete or basketball. It's such a joke. Like it's this whole Russia-Ukraine thing. It's like, doesn't mean he supports the war. He's just going to earn a good living and he's at the end of his career. He's mid to late 30s. So he's like, hey, they just offered me €500,000. I could really do that for retirement or for whatever reason. I'll go play for 3 or 4 months. And they've waived him from the national team. Swedish Basketball Federation, get in the bin. That is an absolute joke. So not a fan of that.
I mean, nobody busts the head of the Swedish basketball taking all those kickbacks for fucking the last 10 years. Now you're going to bust this guy's balls for making €500,000.
Exactly.
Fuck out of here.
Yeah, well, whilst he's playing for you, risking injury to potentially hinder his professional career, which I'm sure Sweden weren't paying him to play for the national team. He was doing it because he loved playing for his country. So,
and they'll pay him in chocolate.
Chocolate or Swedish massages. NBL Australia, Andrew Gaze has been elevated by Basketball Australia to legend status. So congratulations to Gaze. Pretty much a no-brainer pro. I think our podcast episode set him to that path. Basketball Australia finally woke up and made him legend status. This one's interesting.
Hey, Gazy, you're fucking welcome, Gazy, okay? You're fucking welcome, you asshole. But go ahead.
Corey Webster of Perth. I don't know if you know who this is, pro, but he... New Zealand national, very, very talented scorer. He signed with the Perth Wildcats a number of years ago, and between signing with the Perth Wildcats in the off-season and getting to Perth a couple of months later, he then received another offer from a Euro club at way more money, and he bailed on Perth. So not a lot of love for Corey Webster in Perth, albeit he was part of the New Zealand Breakers team. There was a period in the mid-2000s where I think 3 grand finals in a row were Perth versus New Zealand, and New Zealand won 3 straight. He was part of that squad, so he was already kind of not well liked, but they were like, oh, well, that's okay. We're getting a great player. Anyway, he's re-signed with them. And big signing for them, I think, off the bench, gives them a scoring push. But what I found interesting about this was, so he did his press conference via Zoom because he's obviously in New Zealand. And I'm not even going to mention the reporter's name, but the reporter that started this interview off by just absolutely grilling this kid. And you're just like, I would argue a question about him leaving last time would probably be a 3rd or 4th question. So you'd be like, congratulations, how did you get here? Why did you sign here? Do you like the coach? What do you know about and then the 4th one you hit him with like, well, are you sure you're staying this time? This reporter pro went at him 4 straight questions off the top. Was just like, yeah, how do we know you're actually going to show up this time? And Corey's like, answered it, look, I'm committed. Something came up then. I couldn't turn that off, blah, blah, blah. No. You need to give us assurances that you're going to, and just kept going with it. And you're just like, dude, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is, albeit there's a rough history there. This kid just signed with your club, supposed to be a great player, and this guy was just grilling him, man. It was hard to watch, so I think that reporter needs to get in the bin. But very, very interesting one.
Yeah, maybe he could work for Sweden in this fucking federation. So maybe we go there.
Fit in really well. Gary Brown has signed in Southeast Melbourne. I don't know too much about him. Derek Pardon has signed with the New Zealand Breakers. I'm not sure if you know him, pro, but he was 14-9 in the Israeli league for Habol Beersheva. He's a 203 centimeter 5-man though, pro. So not that tall. What's that? 6'7", if that, 6'8". So an undersized 5, but put up pretty good numbers in the Israeli league. So that's all I've really got NBL wise right now. It's been pretty quiet for the most part. So we'll continue to watch that space. But pro, remember, you got to download the Dabble app.
Nice.
Yeah, it's where betting meets social media. I've told you all before. If you haven't downloaded it, what are you waiting for? On Dabble, you can follow me, your friends, people you hate, people you like, Stalk the Expert, trending tipsters. You can one-click put bets to your account just by following someone. So, you see something that someone likes, a parlay or a multi, as we call them in Australia, or like that, I can just instant copy that bet to my account. And you can also get alerts when your friends and other tipsters are placing bets. There is a chat forum on there that you can go and banter, talk shit. I jump on there every now and then. I almost got one right, pro. I had a 7 or 8 leg multi, Golden State versus Boston, and Kevon Looney. All he needed was 5 points, pro, and he didn't get it. I went with a massive role player Game 6 victory and had everything right. I had Wiggins 14+, I had Otto Porter 5+, I had Gary Payton 5+. Like all the role players I thought would all have a bit of a nice run, and Looney just couldn't put it in the hole for me. So anyway, go on and download the app, have a dabble socially, but remember you must gamble responsibly. We appreciate them sponsoring the podcast, Pro, and paying a few of the bills.
Yeah, I got no space left on my phone. It's either download Dabble or get rid of the Hershey's virtual chocolate bar experience. So I'm not ready to get rid of it, but you know what? If I do, I'll dabble socially.
And yes, I don't think it's available internationally yet, so you're safe right now, Pro. But the minute it is, it better be on your phone. All right, useful or useless. Got a few this week that I liked, so I will get started with these. The Warriors are 19-1, Pro, when Draymond Green made a 3 this season. Useful or useless?
I think it's useless, but I think Steve Kerr should have every quarter and beginning of game play for a fucking Draymond 3 for the rest of his career. But no, I think it's one of those things that, hey, if you make, it's sort of
random.
I don't. Yeah, it's random. There you go.
I think it's useless. Useless.
But pretty cool. 19-1.
Yeah, but I think it does make a difference when he's confident offensively, and there's no doubt. When he makes a 3, it opens up his game. I think he just feels better about it. Deep breath, I've made that 3 or that jumper. And I think his offensive game opens up even more. He's driving, he's cutting, he's fake handoffing. When he's struggling to shoot it from 3, I think it takes away a little bit from his offensive game. And he obviously made 2 in that closer. So I think it's important, but it is pretty much useless as far as a stat. Steve Kerr has won, Pro, 33% of the last 27 finals. Useful or useless?
Yeah, it's pretty fucking useful, actually. I mean, come on. I mean, obviously he's victim of his talent that he has in his team, the teams that he played with, but it says a lot about at least him being a winner. So I don't know. Now that I'm fucking thinking about it, yeah, it's pretty. I mean, 27% is pretty good, but he did play on some great fucking teams, and he wasn't a go-to guy there. So, and then he's coaching a team that literally has Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer on it, but it's still hard to do. So I'll give him, just like Phil Jackson, I'll give him credit for that too. I would say useful.
Yeah, I'll say useful just based on the number, but yeah, of course, MJ had a little bit to do with it. Steph Curry did as well. But Steve was pretty big in that Spurs run in that game against, was it Dallas when they were looked down and out? Dallas zoned him. And
he made a bunch of fucking shots.
Popped like 5 threes in that quarter.
Yeah.
So
I did love watching the motherfucker play. I mean, he could really shoot. When he was at Arizona, I loved him. Fucking loved him. Like, he could shoot the shit out of it, obviously, but yeah, I'd say it's useful. That's pretty
useful. That's a lot of success. At least having him with your squad just brings that good juju, I guess. Steph Curry is the only player to win 3 MVPs in one season, Pro. Now, there is a bit of an asterisk on it because it is the first season of the Western Conference Finals MVP, but It is what it is. All-Star MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, and Finals MVP. Useful or useless?
Well, people could shove that all-star MVP up their asses, but the other ones are very, very important. So yeah, I would say it's useful for sure. I hate the all-star game, as we all know, but I think it's pretty useful. It's pretty great fucking accomplishment that he stepped up at least in the Western Conference Finals and final. All-star, he could do whatever he wants.
I think it is useless.
Okay, nice.
And the reason why, it's nothing to do with Steph's performance. It's the first season of the conference finals MVP. So you haven't really had another opportunity for someone to match that because it's the first season of it. Now, you could match it with an all-star MVP, a regular season MVP, and a finals MVP. But considering the Western Conference Finals MVP is in there, if that award wasn't around, he wouldn't be the only player with 3 MVPs in one season. So that's where I think it's.
You tricked me, you prick.
It's a bit of a tricky one they did there. So yes, he is the first to do it, but it's also the first season for conference finals MVPs. So I mean,
Stat Muse?
That one was Stat Muse. I mean, soon we're going to have a playing game MVP. Like Jesus, come on NBA.
Yeah.
How many MVPs are we going to give out in one season? All right, last one from me. Andrew Wiggins had 18 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 3 steals, and made 4 threes. Only player in NBA Finals history to ever have that as a minimum stat line. Useful or useless?
use fucking less. Give me a fucking break, folks. Give me a fucking break.
He did a lot, though.
Man.
He did a lot. He did a lot.
I don't take a thing away from what he did this year at all. The guy was fucking phenomenal. But when you start throwing that one, that's sort of like saying the first Italian on a Tuesday to make 3 threes in a stretch when he had his hat on backwards. Yeah, that's a little stretching it. I'm going to say useless. But he did. He had a great stat line. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, pretty useless.
What are you going to say?
Pretty useless over the
top.
Oh,
you've been on his. You were the president of his fan club today. I'm surprised you went against him.
Oh, it's just useless to the extent of I reckon the 4 threes is what I reckon someone's probably done something similar to this without the 4 threes. That's just my. Okay. Kirilenko had to have been close in a finals, in a playoffs, probably not NBA finals because he hasn't been to one, so that makes sense. But in an NBA finals, it's a small number of players, so you're not really competing. I'd be interested to know the stat actually over the course of the whole playoffs, not just finals.
Well, actually, Jerebko put that in had that in the Swedish Open 6 years ago, but they expunged it from all record books. Him.
So he's been cancelled.
His
stats no longer exist.
They had a Swedish chocolate bar named after him, and they fucking erased that shit too.
All right, what do you got? Fact or fake news?
All right, so Mike D'Antoni will be the next coach of the Charlotte Hornets.
Fact. I mean, this late. Well, not that late actually, but I mean, most teams have their coaches before they draft.
So. I think it's head coach late. Yeah, I think it's head coach. Getting to head coach late, not assistant late. But a head coach late,
because you want to have someone there, right? Although I think when I got drafted, we changed coaches between the lottery pick and the pick. Sorry, the draft lottery and the pick. So that was pretty close. So it went from Terry Porter to Terry Stotts. But yeah, I think fact. I think this is the guy you got to go after. I mean, with that group that you've got. There are some concerns. I bet you MJ has those concerns about this is an ill-disciplined group as it is, and D'Antoni likes the ill-disciplined, free-flowing style. So there'll be reservations there. But I think who else is out there? I don't think there's anyone there this late. D'Antoni just sitting at home, probably chilling with another, 15 contracts that he's still owed. So I think fact. You?
Yeah, I think he's fact. I think they're going to make him. I mean, he was a finalist. He wants the job. He's obviously, they don't have to fuck around to convince him to take the job. He wants it. No one else besides the Philadelphia 76ers, but they got a coach, so they're not going to hire him. So I think he'll take it. I think they'll want him. He's not really disciplined. And again, he doesn't really care who you hire as his assistant. So they'll probably hire a couple of guys to sort of just add some discipline to the staff. But I think that they need a style like that for Ball to really get it. And a lot of those guys overachieve in systems like that. And if there's any team that needs to overachieve, it's them. So I could see them hiring. I say it's fact. All right, Bogues, based on the playoffs in the finals, Draymond Green is overall public enemy number 1 all time for the Boston Celtics, meaning all-time villain that they had to play against in the history of the Boston Celtics. Fact or fake news?
Oh, it's gonna be close to fact already. I think. I think Magic, the Lakers. There was hate there.
I got one.
Who?
I got one. Bill Laimbeer, by far the most hated motherfucker.
Oh yeah, that fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
But
new age,
very close.
Yeah, yes. I got to change my decision. I got to fake news. Laimbeer is one I forgot about. I was more thinking about from a finals perspective, but
sure.
I know the Lakers were up there, but there was a respectful hate between those two teams. Laimbeer is definitely number 1. Draymond's up there though, because I think the receipt printing, the invoices that he's handing out, I think might get him there eventually. But if it's another season of that, they might. All the stars would have to align. I'd love to see them in another final series though next season. It'd be great. But yeah, I'll fake news it based on. I forgot about the Bad Boys Pistons. Yep.
Dude, what he needs to do on his podcast is have a cash register, sound going off, and him printing out a receipt and just reading three fucking tweets from 4 years ago or 2 years ago or 3 months ago, and he could get a lot of mileage out of that.
No doubt. It's been fun. I like it.
Yeah. Last one, Bogues. Jeremy Grant will be traded on draft night. Fact or fake news?
On draft night.
Yeah, on draft night, traded.
I don't know if draft night's kind of pinning it down. It's hard to do on one day. I think he'll be traded before the preseason, before the season starts. So I'll say fake news on draft night, but I think he will be traded fact before preseason. And here's why. I think they've got a lot of young players they need to develop that are similar positions to him. So I think the point where they signed him, it kind of half made sense. But there's a lot of teams that could use him, man. A lot of teams that could use him. He's on a big salary, but I think they will try to move him on, and they might as well go through Cunningham and just rebuild that squad and hopefully be good in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I say fact. I say that he will be traded only because they'll attach that pick with him. They'll get Portland's 7 pick. I've been reading that, and that really makes – I have no intel at all. I'm just reading, and that does make sense. They're talking about Grant. I don't know who's going to be exchanged, but it's going to be Grant to the Portland, and Portland's going to send over the 7 pick to Detroit. They need talent there, and I think that they'll sweeten the pot to a certain point, Portland would, to get as much talent around Lillard as possible, or Lillard is going to demand a trade, which he'll probably demand a trade at some point anyway. So I think that they're going to try to unload that 7 pick. Yeah, because the 7 pick, it'll be a good player for sure, but I think they'd rather somebody a little bit more, battle tested, could put up 18, 19 a game, put him at Lillard, a little bit of size in that front, in that perimeter game. I say fact. We'll see. Who the fuck knows? But yeah, that's what I got. Yeah,
I agree. I think he will be moved. He's been in the rumblings ever since he really signed there, which has been interesting. They signed him, and then within a year of his contract, like, look, we might look to move him. Or there were rumors already circulating. So pretty interesting to see if he moves on. That wraps up our latest episode of the basketball series. Remember, give us a follow on social media. Give Pro a follow at Hoop Consultants. And just for all our listeners out there, the basketball series, which airs weekly, we're going to be taking about a month break. So we'll be off for the month of July. It'll be pretty quiet anyway. Obviously, the draft happening in the next week or two, and then some free agency movement. But we most likely will not have a pod out for the month of July unless something drastic happens and we have to do an emergency pod for an hour. We will. But otherwise, we'll be back around about August. So I'm going to give Pro a nice little holiday, and I'm going to go on a little hiatus and enjoy the weekends a little bit more. But check back with us in August and check out the Jae'Sean Tate interview in full, which will be right after this podcast ends. It'll be the next one down, so give that a click and enjoy. Thanks, Pro.
Thanks, Bogues.